Yeah. Yeah.
1923 is officially over. However, for its breakout stars, the journey is just beginning. Their on-screen romance is reflecting on the real life, and now, alongside their careers, their personal lives flourish as well. Of course, I talk about none other than Brandon Sklenar and Julia Schlaepfer. And yes, they have a lot of tea to spill for us.
What everyone's been waiting for, they're back together, and I think Brandon and I felt that.
I don't know about you guys, but from the very start, I could feel that Brandon and Julia weren't your regular actors just delivering lines. We all have our criticism for this show, but I think we can all agree that these two were living the emotional journey of Spencer and Alex together. I mean, clearly, it's not easy to play a couple so entwined in the kind of love and loss that Spencer and Alex experience. But what I didn't know at first was how much work went into creating that chemistry. Work that wasn't just about memorizing lines, but about becoming their characters in a way that felt as real as possible. We know that the two actors went through extensive training and preparation for their roles, and since we are still crying about Alex's death, it is clear that they became successful in making us believe in their love. The actors revealed that the real success lies in focusing on their personal character's journey at first. For instance, for Brandon, preparing for Spencer wasn't just about the physical aspects, although there were plenty of those as well. I mean, that body speaks for itself, am I right? But in addition to the physical transformation, he also had to endure a lot of brutal experiences, such as filming scenes in the harsh African heat, dealing with long hours of physically demanding action scenes, and of course, the emotional strain of portraying a character so deeply torn. In a recent interview, he reflected on these experiences, saying, "There were days when I felt like Spencer's pain was mine. The loss he feels is universal, and it wasn't easy, but it was necessary to bring the truth to the surface." Julia, too, had her own challenges. She mentioned in interviews how, at first, she was hesitant to step into the role of Alexandra, because apparently she knew from the get-go, I mean after the first 2 episodes of season 1, that Alex was going to die at the end, and she didn't want to experience such a journey.
Well, when I was first cast, I only had 2 episodes of season 1, and she's not in the first episode, and I was like, maybe I'll be a function to the Dutton to get him, healed.
Yeah, I was like, no, like, I'm pretty sure Spencer's
But then I got to be a Dutton.
Yeah.
But what she realized through countless hours of work and deep reflection on Alexandra's character was that Alex's journey wasn't about her death. It was about her love for Spencer. And Julia knew that if she could embody that undying love, no matter how fleeting, she could bring authenticity to her portrayal. She said, "Alex is such a beacon of light. She's full of life and love. But what's most important to her is Spencer. I had to learn to not only play her, but to be her in every scene. Her passion for Spencer has to come through in every moment." And I don't know about you guys, but I think she absolutely nailed it. Apparently, this duo didn't just read their scripts, they lived them. As I mentioned, the chemistry you see between Spencer and Alex wasn't something that happened by chance. It was the result of months of trust, rehearsal, and a genuine respect for each other as actors. Both Brandon and Julia shared how much of their bond formed off-screen too. For Brandon, working with Julia felt like stepping into a dynamic he hadn't quite experienced before. He described her as a partner who was always ready to dive into the emotional depths of each scene. As he said, "Julia's energy is something else. She brings this raw honesty to everything. We didn't just play these characters, we lived them." It was a partnership in the truest sense. No wonder their romance felt so real to us. I mean, it is rare to come across such loving words for your co-stars these days. Brandon and Julia also shared in interviews that while Spencer and Alex's romance was intense, it was also a romance of extremes. Apparently, to capture this romance perfectly, they spent months learning the intricate nuances of their characters' love story. And from what they've said, they often turned to each other for emotional support, especially when they were shooting the more difficult scenes. Julia reflected on this emotional journey by saying, "Every time we had a scene where Alex and Spencer were so connected, I would look over at Brandon and feel that shared experience. It's not easy, but we had each other to lean on. I don't think we could have done it without that trust."
And it was so intense, season 2. I didn't have time to think about it, which I think ultimately really helped. And then, we were filming these really difficult scenes away from each other for so much of the season. And the first scene we shot together was the reunion.
Julia also mentioned how important it was for her to honor the love Alex had for Spencer, even knowing the tragic end that awaited her. She said, "When Alex died, I feel like that piece of me died as well. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely get what she means because even watching her demise was devastating. So who knows how it felt like to act all of that. She also said, I didn't want Alex's love to feel like a temporary thing. Even though her life was short, she loved deeply, and I wanted that love to linger even after her death. Well, don't worry, Julia. Just like Elsa, you will forever live in the minds and hearts of us, the Yellowstone fans. Brandon, too, was deeply affected by Spencer's love for Alex, especially as the finale approached. Apparently, the emotional weight of the scenes where Spencer and Alex faced death and part ways was more than just difficult to film. After all, it was a journey of grief for both of them, not just as characters, but as people who had invested so much of their hearts into bringing these two to life. Brandon confessed that he couldn't even watch the final episode at first because he knew how emotionally taxing it would be. He said, I couldn't even prepare the episode. I couldn't memorize it because I would get so emotional just reading it. It wasn't just another scene for Brandon. It was the culmination of everything Spencer had endured, everything he had fought for, and everything he had lost. In fact, dare I say, it was personal. Brandon himself said, when I filmed that final scene, I wasn't playing a character anymore. It was like I was stepping into something real. I mean, this show clearly transformed the actors who were part of it. And even though I have my reservations for the ending, I love this show for meaning this much for Brandon and Julia.
It hits. That finale hits very, very hard.
Apparently, filming Spencer and Alex's final dance, which was their last moment together in the afterlife, was a particularly emotional experience. Julia described the scene as surreal, especially because they'd already filmed some of the more traumatic moments leading up to it. It was as if they had reached the very end of their journey as actors, and everything that had built up to that point was culminating in one final moment. Brandon felt the same, as he called it an out-of-body experience. He said, you think you're prepared for something like that, but once you're in it, you realize just how deep the emotions go. It felt like our last chance to share that connection, and it was bittersweet. So, not only their characters will miss each other, but also the actors themselves will forever long for this bond they shared when filming the series. Because despite the emotional intensity, they admit that it was also strangely beautiful since they have gratitude for what they had created together. Julia said, the scene wasn't just the end of Spencer and Alex's story, it was the end of our journey together as well. And in that moment, I felt so proud of what we had created, both for these characters and for ourselves. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but I also feel proud of both Julia and Brandon, and I'm glad that they had to go through all these together. For more weekly updates on 1923 and Yellowstone franchise, make sure to like and follow. Meanwhile, the video on the screen might also interest you.